Hey, my name's Paul Higgins, and I am the Irish Connection. This podcast is about connecting with people from all walks of life and finding out their stories, so that they can connect with you all. Positive connections are contagious. Why don't you find out for yourself by listening along weekly? And you can also make more connections through the stories on our blog. Enjoy. A thousand welcomes to another episode of the Irish Connection, where today I want to explore the concept of reinvention as we get older. Now, in my recent podcast with Moira Ward, Irish travel blogger and adventurer, we were introduced to the adventure lifestyle of Moira Ward, Johnny's mum, who, following her diagnosis of Parkinsons Disease at the age of 60, has now visited over 65 countries and celebrated her 70th birthday in style by climbing Mount Fuji and blogging about her adventures as a geriatric traveller. Now, this got me thinking, is it ever too late to start living life on your terms? Now, let's be honest here. All around us, it seems to be the younger generation who are celebrated. It's actually, I think, an accepted view that it's a young person's world, and one I'm sure maybe most older people would agree with. But given that the mortality rate of the population stands at 100%, I think we're creating a fear of getting older by placing uneven value on the youth in society, in contrast to the ageing population we have. Now, this fear is unsurprising, really, given the very particular role we have assigned to our older people. I mean, who would find this role appealing? Who wants to become frail and weak, sitting in a chair, waiting for the end to come, as being bombarded from TV adverts for funeral plans, will writing, walk-in baths and stair lifts? There seems to be an obsession with what you can't do when you're older, rather than what you can do. Not that I'm disputing the physical challenges that may occur when you're older, by the way. Just that generally there's not much value placed on those who are older in years in our society. I think we should be asking whether we want to accept this role that is being pushed on us. Is this stopping us from living life on our terms when we get older? I think this is an important question for us all, regardless of our current age. Moira certainly hasn't accepted this role. Think about it. If you're 60 today, you could have another 20 or 30 years left living. So it's up to you to decide how you want to spend this time. We need to be brave and not focus on fears for the future. Rather, we should be looking at the opportunities we have in the present. I think we need to be aware of the myths about ageing so we can discount them. And once discounted, we can then set about living life on our terms. These myths of ageing are bad news for us all, both young and old. Surely getting old can be a blessing. You will have had a journey of acquiring skills, having experiences, and hopefully finding some wisdom. Isn't this a better approach to take, rather than accepting that you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Moira is modelling this approach to getting older. She's proven that life doesn't end as you get older, nor when your health isn't as good as it once was. As we spoke, Johnny spoke about the different stages in his mum's life. And I'm a firm believer that being aware of these stages and the opportunities they present to change will mean that you can be adaptable. You won't buy into the idea that life begins or ends at a certain age. And what you can do through this adaptability is to reinvent yourself. The changes we go through in life will be different for each of us. There's changes that we'll plan for, while others may be forced upon us by circumstances that are out of our control, such as Moira's diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. But when life throws us curveballs, like an illness, we're going to find ourselves at a crossroads, and we will potentially need to reflect on our own identity. But as we grow in life, there are specific roles that become part of our identity. This may come from your job or your personal life, and we need to recognize that these roles will change with age. Whenever these roles start to shift, then I think this is when our thoughts should shift and matter more than ever. If we don't buy into the myths of aging, then maybe we are able to realize that we will still have time, still have the energy and the desire to live life on our terms. Look, everyone is going to experience aging completely differently. Some people will experience more health problems than others. Some may even be more financially free than others. And others may have experienced lots more setbacks and disappointments in life. But life can be what you make it, whatever your age and physical constraints. Think about it. As you make your way and move away from roles such as full-time care of your children or full-time worker, you've been given new opportunities to live life on your terms. You can choose to reinvent yourself, whatever role you want. We get the chance to move away from our comfort zone, enter a new, unfamiliar world where we can grow. I love the quote, I'm sure you've seen it floating around the internet. A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. But plenty of us stay in this comfort zone. And by doing so, we are actually increasing the chances of being unhappy and falling into that rut. But by stepping outside of our comfort zone, when taking a risk, opening ourselves up to the possibility of stress and anxiety, where we're not quite sure what will happen and how we will react, we open ourselves up to the unpleasant emotion that is fear. But being slightly uncomfortable, whether or not by choice, can push us to achieve goals we never thought we could. This is where there will be plenty of reasons or excuses as why we can't do this, why we can't reinvent ourselves. So it's up to us, by challenging our own mindset, as to why we should do them anyway. I'm a big fan of Wim Hof, the 62-year-old Iceman. This is a man who's a real life example of how you can go out of your comfort zone, how you can break your limits, and be stronger mentally and physically. I mean, Wim's racked up almost 20 world records and is world renowned for taking on extreme conditions, such as climbing Kilimanjaro wearing nothing but his shorts. He's developed the Wim Hof method, a combination of breathing, cold therapy and commitment, that he teaches to people of all ages to control their body and mind and achieve extraordinary things. He approaches life in a very clear way and said, I'm not afraid of death, I'm afraid not to have lived fully. So living fully means, to me anyway, that we embrace the fear that comes when we step out of our comfort zone and achieve those goals of reinvention. Maybe as the world pushes the reset button, as we come out of this pandemic, we will see that people have had time to reflect on their circumstances, and reinvention is purposeful for going forward. Well, I hope so anyway. I hope the fear of the last 12 months doesn't stop those journeys of growth, because they're a beautiful thing. And as we get older, connections become even more important. Nothing makes that more clear than life during COVID. Let's be honest, it's been a brutal time for everyone, possibly even more so for the older people. Clearly, from the outset of this pandemic, they've been labelled as the most vulnerable, and to protect them, we have been told to isolate them, to lock them away. withdrawing those connections that are so valuable. But as you get older and your roles have changed, you're likely to have been forced away from your familiar connections, such as other school parents, your work colleagues. There may have been even losses of close family and friends with which you held connections very dearly. We often develop relationships because of our surroundings, so we have more natural opportunities to be social in those familiar roles. But hanging on to social connections and closeness with other people could become more difficult as life changes. But we as human beings, we're social animals, and we still need to keep up those social bonds. Connections are the underlying reasons for happiness, and therefore, by default, the way that we can live life on our terms. Now, this is actually proven in the famous research study known as the 75-year Harvard Grant Study. This showed that people tend to enjoy greater happiness, lower stress levels, and increased well-being later in life. The conclusions of this study are universal, and one of the key messages from this study was that joy is connection. So the myths of aging prevent us from seeing the value of both the excitement of youth and the wisdom of age. Being young is exciting. You see your whole life in front of you, and you aren't worrying about the time that you have left. But on the other hand, as you age, you'll become wise to the fact that every moment is precious. Time is our most precious commodity and should not be wasted. And you can make a conscious decision to choose connections, although you may need to reinvent those connections as your life changes. But what I took from speaking with Johnny is that it's never too late to start living life on your terms. His mum's approach to life over the past 10 years shows that age is no factor in making every moment count. Her health diagnosis may have well ignited a reinvention in her way of life, but instead of focusing on what she may have lost, she has chose to focus on what she could gain. Her connection with her son and his world also probably had a great impact on this approach to life, because who you connect with and who you spend time with is a massive influence in anyone's life, regardless of age. But I believe that we should be looking to live life on our terms, regardless of our age. And if you get to a certain age and you're given the time and opportunity for reflection, then reinvention is possible. That is, if that's what you want to do. Just don't forget about the importance of staying connected with others. Find the right connections for you. Make every moment count. And most importantly, be happy. Thanks for listening. Speak again soon.
Hey, my name's Paul Higgins, and I am the Irish Connection. This podcast is about connecting with people from all walks of life and finding out their stories so that they can connect with you all. Positive connections are contagious. Why don't you find out for yourself by listening along weekly? And you can also make more connections through the stories on our blog. Enjoy.